It's in every one of us to be wise. Find your heart, open up both your eyes. We can all know everything without ever knowing why. It's in every one of us by and by. It's in every one of us to be free. Find yourself, open your eyes and see. We can all have everything without ever knowing how. It's in every one of us here and now. It's in every one of us here and now.
Thanks for singing. All righty. Well, we are having fun in technology land today. I swear to God, anything with Zoom, Google, like you name it, it is a Zen master sent to humble me. Every time I think I have it figured out, it's possessed by demons and something else happens. Oh, I mean, it got an upgrade and I have no clue how it works. So we're just rolling here. The theme is to rise again, and we're just gonna roll, and it's okay. So Reverend Vicki beat me a little bit to the punch of saying, Happy Passover, a blessed Ramadan, glorious full moon. Hope you were out there dancing last night. And for those of you who come from a Christian background, of course, Happy Easter. One of my favorite little funnies from when my children were growing up is when my precious older child was learning about Jesus rising from the dead. And Skylar very astutely pointed out, well, Mom, if Jesus rose from the dead, that would make him a zombie. Well, you know, I can't really argue with that. They're okay. But all sweetness and joking aside, it is Resurrection Sunday. And the word resurrection comes from our 13th century Latin. You're not going to get away without some Latin and Greek roots, I'm sorry. So it comes from resurge. Think of the word surge, like water surges, and then to resurge. So it literally means to rise again. And certainly Ernest Holmes and many people talk about Jesus being the ultimate way shower. And I know, at least in my experience, when people first think of Jesus, typically they'll think of his model of love and compassion and forgiveness. They might dip their toes into the pool of his social justice. Absolutely. So, you know, not for the faint of heart. Some people can go there too. But what I think gets underestimated or undervalued is Jesus's model of resilience and his strength in times of crisis that felt God-forsaken kind of crisis, and to still hold on to his faith and to show us the power to rise again. That we have that. And when my little peanut was studying martial arts, my little peanut did what's called Aikido. Maybe you've heard of that kind of martial arts. And there's a saying that they have that I use so many times. They say, fall down 9 times, get up 10. Oh, or as Wayne Dyer likes to joke around, you can measure his spiritual growth in body lengths, one face plant at a time. Oh, but the point is, he got back up. So take a moment to think about in your own life, how many times have you had that experience of just getting absolutely thrown down, facing some kind of outrageous trial, tribulation? You come out the other side, you stand back up. No, really count. Can you think, but just take a moment to think through your life. I'm not even 50 yet, and I don't think I have enough fingers and toes to count how many times I have stood back up. And these times, these things that we've experienced, that you've experienced, these are the cracks in your vase, and they're golden. I'm sure you've heard about the Japanese art of kintsugi, where they're putting the vase back together. Well, first off, instead of just throwing out the vase, which is what a lot of folks in our culture would do, they save all the pieces, and then when they get put back together, instead of hiding where the cracks were, which is also what we tend to do in our culture, you can meditate on that one for a while, they put gold dust in the glue. And so that way, when it gets glued back together, you can see every crack, every chip, everything. It's honored, it's celebrated, and it's beautiful. It's a work of art in its wholeness. That's all right there, not thrown away, not hidden, and put back together. So this morning, I've got a few of these thoughts. When you put yourself back together, then, so we're going to do a few of these together. When you put yourself back together, you are more valuable. These vases are actually considered much more valuable than the original ones. You are more valuable when you put yourself back together. Just take a moment to contemplate what value was added to you because of these trials and experiences you faced. Even just pick 2 or 3 right now, just to think about. And could you name one quality or skill that got added to your repertoire, or how your capacity was expanded because you had that experience? Just take a moment to think. Even if you pick one, just think about it. From Joseph Campbell, one of my favorites, he says, when looking back at your life, you will see that the moments which seem to be great failures followed by wreckage were incidents that shaped the life you have now. You'll see that this is really true. Nothing can happen to you that is not positive. Even though it looks and feels at the moment like a negative crisis, it is not. The crisis throws you back, and when you are required to exhibit strength, it comes. So perhaps consider, when you do get thrown down and you got to stand back up and put yourself back together, that you are more valuable. All of your life experiences are coming together to create this beautiful composite that you are this holy vessel of the divine that is whole, complete, and perfect, including all the cracks. And when you put yourself back together, not only are you more valuable, you are more resilient. think how strong you have been. Have you ever stopped to think about that? I mean, really, to just to look back and honor your lived experience. To slow down enough in the hamster wheel or the army crawl, whichever one feels more like your life, to just stop and to look back and say, wow, I did that. I did that. I did that. Wow, I made it out the other side. I stood back up. I put myself together. And guess what? Your survival rate is 100% so far. Bravo. You are a warrior. Absolutely. And when you have put yourself back together to stand back up, you are not only more valuable and more resilient, you are even more brave to stand back up again. If you are rising from the ashes, like we heard in that beautiful poem, if you are rising from the ashes, it means you've been burnt, right? But it also means you dared to ante up and play a hand. Like you got in there, you dared to enter the arena, as the quote goes from Brené Brown. In fact, she kind of resurrected that quote from President Teddy Roosevelt. Have you ever heard it, where it comes from? It's really powerful, but it's a little antiquated. So I'm going to try to read it in a way that you can hear it even through the tricky diction and syntax, because he's an old white guy. So here's what Teddy Roosevelt said originally, and this is what Brené Brown based her Daring Greatly type book on. Okay. It is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. Like if you're being an armchair quarterback, that person doesn't count. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, the person who strives valiantly, the person who errs, makes mistakes, who comes short again and again, because there is no effort without error and shortcoming. But the person who actually strives to do the deeds, who knows great enthusiasms, great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, this person, at best, knows in the end the triumph of high achievement. And at worst, this person, if he fails, at least he fails while daring greatly. And so that his place, this person who entered the arena, shall never be with those other people. Teddy Roosevelt says, the cold and timid souls who know neither victory nor defeat. Oh. You got to play the game. Must enter to win. Yes. And that is brave. When you dare to enter the arena, you are both vulnerable and victorious. And I think about the gentleman I met a few weeks ago at Rio Grande Center for Spiritual Living. I was the speaker there, and a guy I had never seen before, so a visitor came up to me afterwards, introduced himself. It was a pleasure to meet him, and he had moved to Albuquerque a few years ago, and he was just dipping his toe back in the pool of checking out different New Thought churches and wondered about the communities in Albuquerque. So I was telling him about the 5 different New Thought communities in Albuquerque, and what are they like? And as we start to talk, he's starting to cry. So I took a little step back and I was like, oh, maybe we should go to prayer. Step into my office, which is funny because I don't have an office. So we pulled over to just a seat that was in the sanctuary. And I said, well, let's think, what qualities of God could we welcome in this moment? Because this is feeling very tender right now. And he described a little bit of his situation. And it's a situation I think a lot of us can relate to, that when he was in this other city he used to live in, he was just all in his spiritual community and volunteering and doing all the things, and it was his lifeblood and his heart, and he got chewed up and spit out, just trashed. And unfortunately, of all places, our spiritual community is the one place we think we should be safe, or it should be balanced and healthy and all the things, right? But we're just as human as the next person. And wherever two or more are gathered, well, there's also the potential for conflict. So here, here's this man. All I could think is, this guy is so brave. He's so brave. He just got trounced in the arena, just trashed. And he's putting himself back together right before my eyes. And he's so brave to show up again, to try again, to dare to enter the arena. And I was trying to honor this warrior in the making right here in front of my eyes. And I was thinking, wow, this guy is a disco ball just waiting to happen. You know what disco balls are made of, right? Hundreds of pieces of broken glass. And when you put it together, all those little pieces that seem so broken is what makes that spectacular reflection of light. This guy wasn't broken. He was just a disco ball waiting to shine. And it was pulling together right in that critical moment. And I hope that the love and gentleness and spaciousness that I was offering right in that moment could be maybe perhaps some of that gold glitter glue that's going to hold his disco ball together. Maybe that's a first step. But he was so brave. So let me take this even a step further. Even if you're not experiencing at this moment any kind of trial or tribulation or falling down, gotta get back up, even if that's not happening, you are still allowed to readjust, reset, refocus, restart as many times as you need to. I think we have a lot of what's called investment bias. Like, I have invested in this thing, so I better keep doing this thing, even after it's long outlived its purposefulness. Like, I spent 4 years in college earning this degree, so I must do this job, even, 25 years later when it's crushing my soul. Okay, how long am I holding on to this thing? Could I just say thank you for your service? And I'm shifting, I'm allowing myself to grow and change and pivot and change my mind. That's kind of what we do here. Change your thinking, change your life. So when the change happens, can we allow it? And to realize I don't even need a crisis for that to happen. I can choose to rise again, to live anew. Now, you aren't going to get away without some definitions here. I know, it's The Science of Mind by Ernest Holmes, the founder of religious science, and we're going to the glossary, my favorite part of the book. English nerd. All right. So for the word resurrection, here's what Ernest Holmes writes. Resurrection is rising from a belief in death, a restoring or a renewal. We recognize that life is an unfoldment and must necessarily culminate in a victory over death. Jesus made it plain that we should do even greater things. He taught us that the kingdom of heaven is not reached through the gateway of death, but by overcoming our limited beliefs while here, by recognizing the Father within. So you are resurrected every time you remember who and what you are. Every time that you connect with your divinity or the Christ within, you are born again to be the place where God shows up, to remember the holy vessel of the divine that you are. So So now we've had this great pep talk about how amazing you are for every time that you have risen again. So I'm hoping that maybe this week you might take it into further contemplation to just honor your lived experience and to reflect on how these experiences have enhanced you, that they have deepened your capacity, and to remember that you are more valuable, more resilient, and brave, really, really brave. And to remember that you always have the power to rise again at any time. It's clearly a poetry kind of day. So my new favorite poet, John Rodell, in his book Remedy, that I'm sure your local bookstore would love to order for you. So thank you, Koas. This is called poem number 18. It's a creative title, I know. But this one really rocked my world. So he writes, remaining delicate doesn't make you weak. It makes you willing to get shattered every now and then in order for you to transform into whatever you need to become next. Some of God's best artwork are things that were once broken that can become a new creation. If someday you have to become completely undone, don't fight it, because that is just a sign that the divine isn't done working on you yet. If someday the forest of your life has to be burned to the ground, don't cling to the ashes of what once was. Just stand still and wait patiently for the saplings of what comes next for you. Emerge, emerge, emerge. Being willing to start over again and again is the opposite of weakness. It's the toughest thing I can think of. Resurrection is only for the strong. And you, my love, are the strongest person I have ever met. So please, hold on to your power. You have the power to rise again. Namaste. All right, let's go to prayer. Whew. In this moment, in this place with these beautiful people in this loving spiritual community, I know the presence and power of that one loving source, the divinity, the Christ within, the sanctity of this one wild life that we're having in human form, and the adventure of whatever happens next. All of that is the divine. And knowing that all of our experience is part of that whole complete and perfect vessel of the divine, that cracked vase put back together, that disco ball just waiting to shine. I bless all of my experience in my life, all of it. I know that nothing is wasted. I bless all of the trials and tribulations, and I bless every single time that I stood up and put myself back together. And I bless all the lessons and gifts and values and skills and qualities of the divine that were enhanced in me because of those experiences. I bless this game plan the divine has for me, and know that all of it, everything that I experience, is in divine right order, regardless of seeming appearance. And so I gather up all my little bits and pieces of broken glass, and I put it together as that beautiful disco ball that I am, and I let it shine, and I honor all that I have experienced, and I bless it and know that it is good. And I bless you and all that you have experienced, and I know that you are good. That this is where the divine shows up in the experience of humanity, in all its messy goodness. And so I'm grateful for this time to reconnect to the truth. I'm grateful for this time to remember who and what I am, and to hold on to the fact that I have the power to rise again and again and again at any time. I know that I am valuable, resilient, and brave. I'm so grateful to reconnect to the truth and to share this journey with each other, and to show up for this amazing thing called life. So knowing that we truly are in the arms of the divine every step of the way, I let it go and let it be, knowing that all is well. And so it is. Amen. So now you can join me over in the music corral. So thanks, Barry said, let's do some music together. I said, all right, we'll have some fun. This next song, maybe you've seen it. It's by Jana Stanfield, and if you look at it on YouTube, there's an amazing video that goes with it. It's well worth the effort to dig it up and watch the video because it's super inspirational. This song, ironically, is called If I Were Brave. We're gonna roll with that. Okay.
What would I do if I knew that I could not fail? If I believed would the wind always fill up my sail? How far could I go? What could I achieve? Trusting the hero in me. If I were brave, I'd walk the razor's edge, where fools and dreamers dare to tread. I'd never lose faith, even when losing my way. What step would I take today if I were brave? What would I do today if I were brave? What would I do today if I were brave? What would I do today if I were brave? What would I do today if I were brave? What if we're all meant to do what we secretly dream? What would you do if you knew you could have anything? Like the mighty oak sleeps in the heart of a seed, there are miracles in you and me. If I were brave, I'd walk the razor's edge, where fools and dreamers dare to tread. I'd never lose faith, even when losing my way. What step would I take today if I were brave? Feel free to sing along. What would I do today if I were brave? What would I do today if I were brave? What would I do today if I were brave? What would I do today if I were brave? If I refuse to listen to the voice of fear, would the voice of courage whisper in my ear? If I were brave, I'd walk the razor's edge, where fools and dreamers dare to tread. I'd never lose faith, even when losing my way. What step would I take today if I were brave?